Great. So, good afternoon and welcome to the Glens Falls Water and Sewer Commission meeting. It's Monday, October 2nd, 2023 at 2 o'clock. We open up the first meeting to public participation. Kathy, you have anything for us today?
No, I don't.
No?
think so.
All right.
No.
And Peter, you'll let us know if somebody hops online and asks a question. Fantastic. So next is our stormwater moment by our superintendent.
Okay, I think everybody got their
Package.
EPA publication in their packet. Best Stormwater Smart, take steps to protect our waterways. That's speaking about how everybody, can take their steps towards helping with the stormwater, creating rain gardens, and fire retention areas, and school parks, public and private institutions, so it doesn't impact rivers and lakes and streams. Green roofs, permeable paving, so that you can do your part so that everybody can enjoy the parks and the waterfront. Want to make sure you put your litter in the proper places, you can dump liquids down the storm drains, and just overall be smart about everything.
What's the most common misunderstanding about stormwater, Bill? Like stormwater and what you can and can't.
Well, I think just people think it just goes down the storm drain and just leaves and it's gone. You don't realize the impacts it has
Yeah.
on the whole ecosystem and the rivers and lakes and streams that everybody uses. Whether it's, as I say, they're dripping oil pans, or fluids that can leak from cars and normal trucks and things of that nature that make it through them. Making sure that the street sweepers do a good job of cleaning everything up.
Sure.
Making sure your garbage is taken care of and not littered or strewn throughout everywhere. Making sure you pick up your leaves and clippings and everything out there that clog the storm drains. Don't hose down the sidewalks, with all debris into the storm drain. Avoid using too much salt during the cold weather so that doesn't get washed down or de-iced, or at least using a green natured compound to do those things. Always picking up after your animals and things like that.
Mhm.
Just the natural cause of the environment. You have all different kinds of animals out there that you have no control over, so their materials all over too. So.
And then we were just out in Portland, Maine, and there's storm drains when you walk around the city. They'd have a picture of a lobster, and it was someone saying,
Yeah.
this water goes to fit. It's pretty, pretty good, reminder not to throw a junk down.
There's several of the storm drains throughout the city that have those little medallions stamped into them.
But this was painted right on the sidewalk.
Yeah,
So,
much bigger.
it was pretty good size, and if the school or some point would be interested in doing something like that for the city, paint something on a fish or something in the storm drains downtown, and it might be something to consider.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's probably stencils available.
Absolutely. I would have thought the big one for me when I was originally on the Common Council and was during the time we were separating out storm and sewer water, but that was, I have to admit it, I had no idea that there was a separate system. Storm wasn't sewer. And I think I know that was the biggest, really, so I don't think I ever realized that if I was hosing down my sidewalk or sweeping out the debris, that I was sweeping that into a storm system that was going into our fresh water eventually, right? That wasn't, I thought I was sweeping it into our sewer, which probably, if I'm sweeping sand into it, probably wouldn't have been good for the sewer either, but I just never realized it, right? I didn't. And so I think that was the biggest understanding for me, that we were actively separating out storm and sewer water, so they weren't combined, and that, I agree with you, I noticed that too, and I don't know if it was in Maine or New Hampshire, but they had, signs painted on the
Maybe some kind of a
sidewalks.
stencil or something.
I think it'd be a great idea and a great community project for
Yep,
us.
would be.
You know, like you could even say where it's going. You know, this water goes into the Halfway Brook, or do you know this goes into the
Hudson
feeder
River.
canal, Hudson River, right? So, great. Any other questions about the stormwater moment? Thanks, Bill. 3 is potential area 3 is billing areas. 9 Weight now has a new meter and transmitter, although vandals have removed all the copper pipes. Want to talk to us about that, Bill?
Yeah, I think this has been an ongoing issue with this property at 9 White, trying to get in and changing the transmitter. We contacted the people a few different times, and they told us that they would let us in. We never come through on their word, so we gave them, the board was nice enough to extend it for 30 days. Said if we
Right.
didn't extend it for the 30 days, we'd go ahead and attach those fees. So I think it was pretty much in the 11th hour. They came through, but when Chuck went up there to put the transmitter in, he put the transmitter in and found out there was no copper left in the basement.
By vandals? They had
I
people-
imagine, because there's nobody living in the home, so the woman had moved down to South Carolina, North Carolina with family, Virginia, with family, and you know, wasn't going to come back anytime soon. But she said she would have relatives come give us access, and finally that's how we got in. But, you know, the lawn was overgrown, everything was overgrown.
Boy, we need to address that, huh? You'd think they'd sell if they weren't gonna utilize the home, right? It's not like the property wouldn't sell quickly.
Well, it's gotta sell when somebody's gotta redo all the plumbing.
Yeah. For resolutions. So the first resolution is do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the September 5th, 2023 meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And then next is an approval to approve the water warrant. Questions before we approve?
We still have Full Star doing our announcements, the notices. The circulation is not done very well. I don't know if there's another solution to that.
I don't know.
Public announcements of the,
Maybe some guy, you know, not to be derogatory, most people I know don't get the post.
get it all. No, I know, it was one of the
I saw
big
that.
conversations I had when we were talking about the need for a communications director. I was like, communication in general has changed dramatically. There was a day when you could just post something in
Right.
any of the printed news and.
I don't think it's a large dollar amount that was spending there, but it's still spent.
Right.
Only purpose, I don't know if it is a solution to it.
The only other game in town would be the Chronicle, right? And that's only published.
Printed, right?
Yeah,
Printed
it's only
weekly.
on the weekly, yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, we haven't invested in our website enough. We've grown our social media, but right now I don't have anybody to update it.
So, you know, the requirements for a lot of the notifications, publication are required to be in your local print.
Oh, is that what it
It
is?
is, so
Yeah.
I mean, it's a statutory requirement, so until they change the statute, most municipalities have got to keep whatever is available, and in this case, and it's pretty much everybody locally uses the Post-Star,
Yeah.
because the, you know, public meetings, all of that kind of stuff, it has to be published in the newspaper, in addition to online and at, you know, City Hall and things like that, so.
Is that why we've formally at the January we recognize them as
That's correct.
as the official letter of record, or
Yep.
is that
Does that change any at all now that they're only
daily?
3 times a week in a printed version,
Going
right?
from
Post-Star's only 3 times a week now?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yep.
I look at it online, I don't get the paper anymore. No, I mean, it's still official, you know, it's still the official newspaper, that's enough. I mean, I think, you know, the Chronic, I mean, you could even probably get away with the Chronicle if you had to, which is once a week, but it's still gotta be, till they change the statutes, you still gotta have printed media, circulated printed media.
Okay. Wow. Be nice, though, to think of what we can do in addition to try to get more people, because I know that our traditional communication sources
Yeah.
are,
Especially with the circulation issues,
yeah,
and they're mailing it rather than delivering it.
yep,
So it's-
We
yeah.
did put it in a printed, comes out 3 times a week, and this was a easy requirement for notification.
Yes. For industrial pretreatment, if we have a customer that is in significant non-compliance, which we do, we had one last year, we're required by the EPA to post it publicly in legal ads of a local paper. CoStar is the only local paper that has legal ads, so I'm required to post it.
Gotcha.
That's, I'm sure, what that is. We don't do many of them.
Thank you. Good
If you want a
question.
copy of the printed ad, I have to send that to them along with the rest of the report.
Do you have to send an affidavit with it?
Again, I have to send everything stating it was printed, that we requested the printing. I started working on pre-treatment about mid-September, and the report done by the end of November.
Thank you. Any other thoughts, questions about the warrant? If not, would you-
Motion to approve.
motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Thank you. 5, discussion about our turbulent water.
I don't know if anybody heard anything about that, but
Yeah. Very good.
this is my ear, it just looks like a cauliflower because the phone hasn't been away from it a week. Just this year, it just seems that there's a lot of whether it's debris going off the side of the pipe or just some iron and manganese just settling out in the pipes. Took us forever to flush it this time. So we're looking at all of our chemical additives that we're using at the treatment plant. We actually met with DOH this morning to go over everything we're doing. And, they thought we were, being proactive and trying to take care of all these measures. It was painful,
Yeah.
to say the least. But wherever we flushed, after we flushed, everything cleared right up. We're still in the process of flushing the hydrants. Obviously, we start off by Webster and Fort Amherst and work our way down.
I know after speaking to you in the first couple, maybe the first day, you said it took longer than normal to run clear.
Yes.
Are you finding that as you go down the city, as you make it through the city, is it taking more time to get clear, or was just that first section?
No, it seems like in each zone, there's always, it seems like we get one hydrant that has a lot, and once we flush that one hydrant, it seems like every other one
Is clear.
is clear. It usually takes us, the initial flush for some of the ones that we know usually takes 45 minutes to an hour. Those weren't clearing for like an hour and a half.
Okay.
And so we were having hydrants open for, a long time.
They flushed the one in front of my house today and the one in the corner by you. Our water was clear right after they did it. We
Right
had
after.
no dirt at all.
And we discussed it this morning. I said the same thing, you could have dirty water at your house, you could be clean, I could be clean, your house would be dirty. And we
Yeah.
live next to each other.
Right.
So
Right.
it's probably where you're tapped on the pipe, whether it's the top, the bottom, or, the side, so.
Oh, right.
But,
Okay.
it seemed like it was turbulent, and, once we started at the upper section, it seemed like a lot of it went into suspension, so a lot of people got it. Once
Right.
it was suspended, we flushed the hydrant and we're pulling everything out, but some goes right by because it's a loop system. So that if we have a water break on your street, we can shut it off so that David or and Ron and Woody could have water. So that's how that works, because it's all a loop.
Right.
So we're still looking at, the biggest reasons why this is happening. So
Yeah, why more why more sediment in the bottom of our pipes this year as
That's-
opposed to others?
That's what we're trying to find out. We're looking at like the chemical, whether it's a sequestrian, isn't coating the whole pipe so that the,
I think whoever was using water and shutting it off real quick, they had it water hammered. You know, that would go through the whole system, I would think.
well, I think that's, the way that that happened was, you're correct, and then what we're seeing is a lot of people that are on the 2, the 4, and the 6-inch mains. Because as you're using this amount of water, the volume's increasing, which means the velocity in the smaller pipes is increasing dramatically more than the
Right.
larger pipes. So it's pulling a lot of that stuff, whether it's on the side of the pipe or on the bottom of the side of the pipe.
Shut it off real fast.
Almost like a water hammer, but you would expect that that would break pipes more than loosen everything out. But I do believe that we saw a lot more, not just during those peaks, but during the summer, and I think it had to do with a couple other issues, with the new gas lines being placed, the new sidewalks, and the paving, because the Miller and those rollers use water, so they were using hydrants, so they were pulling water. So that's how we're getting a lot of the intermediate ones through the summer.
Okay.
And the ice, we have, Jeremy and I have a little disagreement in that, but, I think, I think when they're able to put the gas lines in and they're putting the sidewalks in, there's a lot of compaction going on. So there's a lot of vibration throughout.
Okay. But then we did have at least a couple, so one is we know the turbidity in this next week or so. How far do we have, how much time do we have left?
We're hoping to be done, because these took so long to clear, it's gonna take us a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to be done by the end of the week.
Okay. And so we know that the recent turbidity issues are caused by our flushing the system,
Correct.
and we're hoping for good resolution. We know that some of the turbidity issues over the summer were caused by the construction, the new lines and the gas lines, and all the sidewalks. We did record numbers of sidewalks where we're using hydrants. And then we have a third cause, which is some commercial user using large amounts of water and in a short period of time. And we were trying to track that. Any chance we have in our mapping of those complaints? Any kind of pattern? Any
Well,
idea?
We're gonna look at that now. We're just coming up to our third quarter billing, so we'll look at some of those numbers. Again, if you have a large user and just looking at the meter numbers, it's gotta be dampened over 90 days, so you really can't.
Right.
So what we'll look at, I think Adam said he pulled a couple of records, and maybe instantaneously. We can do that for the dates, that we do have the dates and the times of when it happened, because we can track it on our computer at the
Gotcha.
water treatment plant. So
We're still asking people to run their systems. If it runs clear in the 10-15 minutes, fine.
Good to
If
go.
it doesn't, to let you know, right? And are those numbers, now that we're in the middle of this,
Yes.
going down?
Oh, yes, I mean, the phone is, Chris sits down here, and I mean, it drove poor Mary Beth out of the office because she couldn't get any of her work done, so, and Adam, the office staff's been great, fielding all the calls and taking all the information down. And it's generally, the public's generally good once they know.
Yeah.
It's that initial, and going back to Woody's statement about the co-star, why didn't you tell us? Well, we put signs out, we put it on social media, we put in the postcards, and the two comments I get, well, I don't read social media, I don't go to social media,
Yeah.
I don't like it. And
I
the
don't
others,
I don't
nobody
read
reads the postcard.
Yeah.
That's the two comments.
And
I
it was
think-
on our website.
Yeah.
It was on your website, your webpage as well.
Well, it was on, initially it was on the front of the city one, and then it wasn't on the water and sewer, but then we put it on the water and sewer too. And then, before the weekend, we told everybody we were flushing from 7 to 11 in the center, because that's the easiest way to do it on the weekends and when there's nobody around.
Gotcha.
So, that's how it's been going better and better as I said, once we open one and get it cleared, the rest of them seem to be back to normal. And Dan Gerard running the program, he's got every hydrant, what time we've opened it, what time it closed, and so we'll be able to tell which ones
Fantastic.
took a really long time, things like that. We did go out on Friday, I did go out, and with the guys, we took some samples, and we got chlorine residual samples when we first started, and then when it cleared, we finished. and there was still, you know, enough chlorine residual in there to met the state regulations.
Good clean water. Yeah. When this is all over, could I ask you to write up, when's the quarterly bill go out?
The quarterly bill at it ended September 30th, so it'll be going out
Soon?
shortly.
You want to write a little note in with that, maybe?
I'm not sure if the bills, I think they're computer generated, so I don't think you,
The way
Ken?
the way the bills are folded and mailed, there's not really a way to do an
there's
insert.
no way to do an insert.
Okay. So then, soon when this is over, let us find a way to tell that story of those 3 different kinds of turbidity issues we had.
Yeah.
The fact that it was more than we've ever experienced and we still haven't figured out why. And just the general, hey, what's going on for those people who haven't heard.
And I mean, I've
It's
heard
worth
from
whatever it might
people that
cost us.
said, you know, I lived here 50 years, or I lived here 40 years, or I never had it. But Dan McElroy from the DOH, who came down today, and he had a file on Glens Falls, and one was dirty water. And they had some issues back in the 90s and back in the 80s, so it's not
Okay.
unheard of. But,
Right.
in the last few years, I guess, it hasn't been in, you know, several decades, so.
Right, yeah. And people forget, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about that. I mean, I know it might be a significant expense to send out, but I think the only way we know right now to really reach the majority of the people is through through the people we're sending bills to. Because I don't think we have any other way to do it. It'd be great if we had everybody's email, right? It'd be great if we could send out
Well-
some email. I mean, that is one of the goals of that I worked with Tim Drawbridge on, is trying to create a true email list, and it would be a nightmare to keep it up to date. But at the same time, right? It's about the only real way to communicate wholeheartedly with anyone.
We've also started up the Water Sewer Facebook site, also you have the Greater Glens Falls Community Facebook site, and that's where a lot of the conversation was.
Yeah.
So if you put something on there, then I'm sure people will find it pretty quick.
Yeah. The problem with that is that you can't control all the baloney, all the non-truth stuff, right? And so we did have Tim spending quite a bit of time, at least interjecting onto those sites on the statements when he could. But it's not like you don't want to get into a debate, right? And you don't have any control over the information as it comes out. So that's not that'll never be a good source for us to truly communicate what's happening. It will be a good opportunity to try to inject some simple, direct communication at times. I'm for it, but that's not if you're making a communications plan, it doesn't quite cut it, because you can't even be the primary source of it, right? There's the problem with that. I purposely did not inject, knowing the question that's coming out. There's 500 people saying all sorts of things that are not true. So anything that could be said could add to that confusion. I didn't want to be part of that. So anyway, although you got to try, and we did, and we were when Tim was here. Spend quite a bit of time monitoring those sites, trying to interject at least press releases and updates that we could. But it didn't control it goes off into left field really quickly, right? Okay.
And if anybody knows anybody that's had any laundry ruined or something from the iron, we have a solution packet that I think it's powder that'll take that out. If anybody ever knows that. So,
Great.
and I think we'll look at a couple different ways of maybe better communications when we do this in the spring, as
Yes.
far as the flushing program.
Yeah. Yep. Great. Thank you. Update on current projects.
The electrical project design is moving along. We had a couple of, I think, 4 gentlemen and taking a look at all the panels and all the safety things, and going over a safety program that's part of the project. We have a scheduled meeting for next week, Was it this week? This Thursday? This Thursday, 1 o'clock? Or 2? 10? 10 o'clock, so to continue moving along, we're making really good progress. So I'm hopeful that maybe by December or January we'll have something to show you about the schedule and see where we are on the schedule.
Great.
The Elm Street project, the RI is moving along. Carver's out there, they did some test pits and stuff to locate and make sure all the as-bills are as they should be. But I guess there was one, I forgot, Jeremy just had to run out to a meeting, but he said there was one corner, I can't remember the corner, but where they were working at. There was a National Grid duct bank there, it wasn't supposed to be. So we're going to take a look at that. So I don't know if you want to speak about Webster Avenue or not.
Sure. So our Webster Avenue project has been on the transportation plan from AGFTC for a couple of years now. Some delays due to COVID and other things. The city has checked and inventoried the underground water and sewer pipes and found normal repairs that we need to do. We're ready to go out to bid on those repairs. And then the top part, which is the TIP, right, the Transportation Improvement Plan. All of Webster Avenue was selected. We hired, the engineers were Creighton Manning, sorry. And so Creighton Manning made a presentation of two different options. That both options included sidewalks through almost all of Webster Avenue. They determined that I don't know if any of you would be aware of it, but we put porous pavement. We had a small project of porous pavement on the part of Webster Avenue that was kind of close to our pump station. That is still in good shape and doing well, so that won't be replaced. But almost all curbs, sidewalks, Webster, there will be sidewalk put on and curbing by the cemetery as well. And so one option that they presented to the Board of Public Safety to review has sharrows that there would be, they'd maintain the two lanes. Webster's quite wide in most parts, and so it would be sharrows with white lines on the outside of the main driving lanes, and those could be continued to be temporary parking, right? City law is that there are 2 hours restricted parking throughout all of our neighborhoods and our downtowns. That law has been in existence since before I was born. And so that's one option. The other option, and with that too, and all the replacement of those sidewalks are the replacement of trees that are either interfering with the sidewalks or the electrical lines. For those, there's another option that the Board of Public Safety was able to look at that would allow for bike lanes to be installed, and so they wouldn't be asking the children and the adults riding bicycles to drive in with the traffic. And where those bike lanes would be through the majority again of Webster Avenue, with the two ends of Webster being a little more narrow. So in those cases, they followed complete street guidelines and had that traffic comes into in with like a sharrow at the very end to turn onto Bay Street or onto Glen Street. We followed the same guidelines that we've done for all of our major roadway projects, which are to let the Board of Public Safety understand what those options are and ask them what they felt. The Board of Public Safety recommended to the Common Council that they go with the bike paths, that they that having the bike lanes there would be safer for the residents. We had a public hearing at our last common council meeting, and over 20 Webster residents came and attended, and they voiced their concern. They did not want, not one resident expressed the idea that they liked the bike lanes. They felt that Sharrows were safe enough. That's what the kids have always done. They questioned many different things, but they believed, they were upset. They felt that the city was removing their public parking in front of their residents. So the Common Council, normally this would just be in front of the Board of Public Safety. Board of Public Safety decides has the jurisdiction over traffic of our public right-of-ways, over those decisions. But in this case, I will allow, we will have a quick conversation before bring it up in a resolution and let the council decide which of the two recommendations they would like to follow from the board. And so, any questions about that? That's Webster Avenue. All right.
Been a long time coming.
It has. A few people appreciated it, said they were glad that we were doing the work. Some were really upset about their trees. Any tree that might need to be removed, we told them we'd replace them like we always do. Some were upset that the sidewalk in front of their home might be 5 feet instead of 4 feet. We explained that was part of the public right-of-way access guideline, that whenever we replace sidewalks, in today's standard is to go with the 5 feet, and that we would do that. They seemed to be okay with that, but the big one was, how dare you take out, and what will happen, right? And we all know that what would happen. So if you put a bike lane in front of somebody's house, and then we have a balloon festival, so there would be no enforcement of that, right? Any kid on a bike would basically go around the car just like they do now, right? Except underneath that car would be a bike lane as opposed to a sidewalk, or not sidewalk, excuse me, pavement, right? So, but there's a lot of concern about that. Same with, most of you probably know, because you're on the Water and Sewer Commission, that when you put your garbage out, you're not supposed to put your garbage in the street. Most people in Glens Falls do put their garbage containers out on the street, and they're not supposed to, but if you're riding a bike down the street, you drive around it, you know? And we don't enforce that either. We don't ticket people for putting their garbage out for a morning or an afternoon. So that's where it is. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Some people are quite upset.
The poorest sidewalk, that was kind of a trial.
Yeah.
At the time, it's held up all though.
It has. It's not as pretty though. And so if you're a person was actually, it's poorest sidewalk. If you put it next to, it's just a darker color, and it's more of it's got holes in it because it's porous, right? And next to a newly done cement sidewalk, you go, what's wrong with this? This is terrible. I don't want this in front of my house. Unless you happen to be somebody who's concerned about the environment and the runoff, and then you might go, wow, this is great. I don't know. Their request was to remove it. We just did it in 2018. We used both environmental money and city budget to do it, and that will stay. It's not cracked. It's held up well.
Yeah.
It's not in a straight line though, right? It was made to go with the contour so we could get around trees and things, and so if you're not used to it, if you want to be critical, that's something you could be critical of. It was great to have the public. It's good to have 20 people at a common council meeting like that every week. That's it for Webster. That's the update. They'll hopefully make a decision. We've got to go out to bid on that soon. And both of those, whatever is chosen, are both within complete streets, right? Shared sidewalk. It's just hard to imagine if Webster's not wide enough for people to really be excited about bike lanes, you wonder what street in Glens Falls people would be. If you're somebody who rides a bike or you're interested in public safety and pedestrian safety, it's hard to imagine that there's a street wide enough to accommodate both parking, bike lane, sidewalk. I don't know that it exists. And that is the vision of a complete street, that you'd have it all. Anyway, let's see, I think that's it. Update on our budget.
We're in the process of wrapping up the budget. We started back in June with the department heads and going through what was needed at each facility, out in the distribution system, out in the collection system. So we've been several times now with the mayor, with Tom Monaco, who is the new Mike Regan. So he's come in and tried to get his hands wrapped around it. Not easy. So with all of the nuances of the budget and the debt service and all that has to be put together with it. So we're in the process, and I think the mayor's going to present to the council.
Wednesday, we have our first, it's just a workshop before the full council starts digging deep into the budgets, when I'm going to give them their proposed budget at that time and share with them what I think the strengths are of the budgets, the two budgets, right? The general fund and the water sewer budget. That's Wednesday at, I believe, 5:30 or 6. So it's like I said, it's budget season. I think that we should, like I asked about a newsletter or a flyer regarding the water, as much as people aren't aware or don't remember having turbidity, but it is an ongoing every year. That's why we flush our systems. We do know there's more, and we are exploring why. I don't think people understand that the money and how it's being spent. That it's costs the city about $11 million a year to provide safe drinking water to every resident in the city, to provide sewer, and to make sure that we're separating out our storm and our sewer water, and that we're not dumping irresponsibly into the Hudson River. I don't think that they're aware that those costs, and I don't think they appreciate that when Jack Diamond cut the budget 5 or so years ago, that it created an unsustainable problem for us, that we were using our fund balance, and that was not sustainable in the long run. And I don't think that they're aware. I think our quarterly, I've asked Bill and the deputy controller Tom to deputy, right? Right. So I'd like them to look at looking at what monthly billing would do. I think that when you get it quarterly, it just seems overwhelming, and oh my God, $200 for a quarter. It's just, I can't believe how expensive this is. And I think if you add it monthly like your other bills, I don't know. I think we need to look at it. I think we need to communicate more often all the positive and what great system we have, and how there's no fat in this budget, and that we're working hard and keeping people safe. If you don't notice it, you flush that toilet, and you don't think twice about it. And so I'd like to do more, because instead what you do is you notice that any increase, and you get people saying, we're always paying too much, we're always paying too much, and anything is too much. I agree. I can't afford my water any more than I can afford my garbage bill. I have to pay them because I'm too lazy to take the garbage up to the transfer station and pay that way.
Pay there.
Yeah, you do. But I just don't think we do a great job. Same with the people talked about when they came to this. I had a budget workshop a few weeks ago it was a workshop regarding our communications director. But at it, a supervisor for one of the wards was at the meeting, and she said, people always say that the taxes in Glens Falls are too high, and that they're always raising, and they're always too high. And I heard it, I appreciate it. when I look at the 2000, from 2013 to 2022, 10 full years of tax system, the property taxes in Glens Falls went up $1.58. 10 years, $1.58. That any tax is too much, but that's pretty damn impressive. And that's the work that the previous councils, the previous mayors, and Mike Mender, our budget director, did, right? And it's awesome. And we've never broke the tax cap, and we don't ever plan to. But the point here is that I don't think people recognize it, because all they'll see is the rate increase of 1.8%, right? And I don't think they get it. An average home of $155,000, the taxes in that 10-year period went up $228. Now again, $228 of tax increase is too much for any home. Nobody's gonna afford it. But it's 220. I can't. My phone bill alone, right? I couldn't imagine, right? And so I do believe that we need to help people become more aware and appreciative of the burdens we face and what it takes to be safe. It is something else to think that turbidity is unsightly. It's not okay. It's we've got to figure out why there's more, and we need to solve the problem. But throughout that time, our water was safe, tested out, safe, and safe from beginning to end. Thank God we don't have major water problems, but we also pay $11 million a year as a community to keep that safe. I think we need to do a better job letting people know. So you'll see that come across as we continue to do this. I want to help people be more aware of what they get, right? And I think that doing it quarterly, although there would be a cost to that too. How do we do that? I'm not suggesting I want to spend more, but it would be great if we could do this monthly and help people to understand and to maybe budget differently. So anyway, it's a thought. I have the same problem with my business insurance. It comes to me quarterly, and I struggle with it.
Well, perhaps, Mr. Mayor, if you went to a monthly bill and we could change the format to a nice standard 8.5 by 11, and then we could do inserts.
Inserts too, yeah, I agree. It would be, I think we need to. I mean, I think people would love to know more about it as opposed to just getting a bill. So we got to look at the cost of what it would cost us to, and make sure, yeah, postage, yeah, sure it is, yeah. And even we pay bulk rate, so in that case, right, for all our tax. Right. That's it for any other questions about budget? Personnel, I don't believe we have any personnel issues in front of us. Executive session, I don't believe we need to go into executive session, do we?
Nothing I'm aware of.
Next proposed meetings, we've got a water and sewer workshop October 16th at 2 p.m. And then the regular water and sewer meeting on November 6th at 2 p.m. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.